Hi everyone, and welcome to this workshop that's designed to teach academic folks like you how to write a functional resume in order to get a job outside of teaching. Now, as you may remember, we had our email chain going, and in that email chain, I asked you to just briefly describe your situation, why you're leaving the university and going out into the public sector. And it was very interesting to see everyone's situations and all of you responding to your colleagues and really sympathizing and supporting. So that was very nice to see. I also, in that email, asked you to propose, workshop outcomes, and I had given you just a few options. And you didn't want to focus on the cover letter because you're English teachers and you pretty well know how to write a cover letter. And you didn't want to focus on the chronological resume because it's so similar to a CV. Of course, for the chronological, you'll have to cut out a few significant sections of your CV in order to make it a chronological resume. What you were most interested in was learning how to write a functional resume because many of you had never heard of one. So that's what we're going to go ahead and focus on today. So your one learning objective for today is by the end of a week after you finish this workshop, if it even takes you that long, but certainly by the end of a week, you will know how to write a functional resume that's going to be, effective and targeted toward a specific job. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So if you remember the kickoff email I sent, I had asked you to find a job post or 2, 3, however many you want, for jobs that you think you could do, but the wording of the job post makes it seem like you're not qualified for it. So I'm going to walk you through what a job post looks like, how to read it real quick, and then how to mark it up and translate your markup into a functional resume. So here's a job post that I found, and I did this just by looking up, jobs for English majors, and paralegal was one of them. And I thought, okay, let me take a look. Okay, so now let's take a look at that same job post after I've marked it up. Okay, so now you can see this is the same job post, but it just looks a little different. All I did was I went through and I looked at keywords, or what I thought were keywords from the job post. And I highlighted them and gave them a name. After I went through and did that, I went back and gave everything a color. So everything is color coded. So for example, anything related to research, okay, if I just click over here, it highlights it in purple. Anything in red is research. Summarizing and drafting. That's a composition or a writing skill. Checking legal forms for accuracy. That's going to be an editing skill. Preparing correspondence. Again, that's going to be a writing skill or a business writing skill. So that's all I did was I went through and I gave everything that I could a skill name if it matched me. So then after I got everything color-coded and highlighted and all of that kind of stuff, I went through and I added up how many of each category I had. Okay, so for writing and business writing, it was mentioned 8 times. Like those kinds of skills were mentioned 8 times in this job post. Research was mentioned 7 times in this job post. Editing, organization, and collaboration skills were each mentioned 5 times in this particular job post. And organization was mentioned twice. Okay, so once I figured out how many times each skill was mentioned, I'm going to take the top 3 or 4. And that's what's going to become the basis of my functional resume. So why don't you go ahead and pause the video and take a few minutes to mark up one of your job postings the way that I did. You can either do it by hand or on the computer, whichever way works best for you. And when you're done, come on back to the video and we'll talk about how to construct a resume. Welcome back. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the structure of the functional resume and the purpose of the functional resume, really. Let's start with the purpose. The purpose of the functional resume is to match your skills to the job posting. So let's go ahead and take a look at how I would construct a functional resume for the job posting we just looked at. The first thing I want to do is get my heading information in here. So it starts with your name and then your street address, your city, state, and zip, your phone number, a professional email address, and your LinkedIn address if you have one. Then the next thing that you would do is you would start filling in your skill sections, okay? So let's go ahead and start with the first one. And the first one was going to be the writing, business writing, and professional editing skills. So I have that in all bold and in all caps. And then underneath that, that's where I'm going to put all of my skills that relate to writing, business writing, and professional editing, which is what they were looking for in the job posting. So I will put all of those in there. They're all bulleted, and you'll see that they all start with verbs. So now we go ahead and move on to our next skill set, which was going to be the collaboration and communication skills. And we'll go ahead and add our skills here. So it looks the same. And finally, we go ahead and do the same for our third skill set, which is the research skills. And we'll go ahead and add our skills here. Okay, so we have our skill sets. So right now, why don't you pause the video and take a little time to mark up your job posting and then start filling in your skill sets and the skills that you have that match those. You can resume the video when you're ready. All right, welcome back. Beneath your skill sets, it's time for the education section. Now, the education section in a functional resume looks exactly like the education in a chronological resume, so you can most likely just cut and paste that from your chronological resume or your CV into your functional resume. Okay, so here is my education section. So why don't you go ahead and take a minute to pause the video and add your education section. You can resume the video when you're done. Welcome back. Next up is going to be the employment section. So underneath the education section, we're going to go ahead and do a new heading called employment. And in the employment section, it's going to look a lot different from the employment section in a chronological resume or in a CV. In a chronological resume or a CV, you list your job and then you bullet point every nasty little thing you did for that job. In a functional resume, all you do is you list your dates, your employment dates, and then the title, the employer, and the city and state. And that's it. So let me go ahead and fill mine in and I'll walk you through it. Okay, so here is my employment section. As I mentioned, you can start with your dates of employment and then followed by your title and then the employer and then the city and state. Okay, so you can see in March, I started a new position as an associate instructional designer at Sinclair in Dayton, Ohio. Okay, from September of 2003 to December of 22, I was a senior lecturer of English at Wright State in Dayton. Now, I do want to point out to you, if you have promotions, go ahead and put your promotions in as well as the date that you earned those promotions. Okay, and again, just like with your education, the employment section goes in reverse chronological order. Okay, so starting with the most recent and ending with the earliest that you choose to include. The other thing I want to alert you to is if you do go onto a second page, and I'm sure you will, make sure you include your last name and the page number on there, just in case someone prints your resume and it gets separated, you all have been on hiring committees, you know, everything gets separated. So just remember to put your last name and your page number on there. So why don't you go ahead and pause the video and fill in your employment section. Just come on back when you're ready. Okay, that about does it for this workshop on how to write a functional resume. Now, I'm going to go ahead and send out another email so we can get you discussing in another email chain. And in that email response, I would like for you to discuss what you understand better about a functional resume, or what questions you still have, like what are you still a little bit shaky on with regard to the functional resume. And if you would like another workshop, what would you like that workshop to be about? I'd also like to know what I could improve on in this particular workshop or in a series of workshops. Okay, so I want to thank you all for your time and your participation, particularly in the email chain. And if you have any questions at all, please email me at michelle.metzner@wright.edu, and I will be happy to answer them for you. All right, until next time, bye.